The power of the first fruits, teaching your consciousness to wealth. My friends, we have been told for generations that to be right with the divine, to unlock the floodgates of heaven, we must give 10% of our worldly earnings to a building made of stone. We have been taught that teething is a physical act of writing a check or dropping coins into a plate. But I tell you, this is a dead ritual. It is a misunderstanding of a profound psychological law. The Bible is not talking about your wallet. It is talking about your attention. The only Lord you can ever honor is the I am within you, and the only wealth he recognizes is the quality of your consciousness. When the ancient scriptures speak of the first fruits, they are referring to the very first movements of your mind. They are speaking of that sacred, pristine moment when you first open your eyes in the morning before the world of shadows begins to press its claims upon you. That is your first fruit. And if you want to be rich, if you want to walk this earth in a state of opulence and freedom, you must learn to take those first moments to the feeling of abundance. Most of you wake up and immediately surrender your first fruits to the tax collector. Who is the tax collector? It is the morning news. It is the stack of bills on the kitchen table. It is the memory of yesterday's failures. Before you have even left your bed, you have already taxed your soul with thoughts of lack, limitation, and struggle. You give your power away to the world of effects, and then you wonder why the crops of your life are so meager. You are honoring the Lord of poverty with your first thoughts, and by the law of assumption, he is returning to you exactly what you have offered him. But listen to the promise. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. This is not a bargain with a deity. It is a description of a mathematical law of the mind. Your barns are your subconscious storehouse. The new wine is the vital, creative energy of the wish fulfilled. To fill them, you must give the Lord your own awareness, the best of what you have, which is your focused attention on the state of wealth. I want you to try this. Tomorrow morning, when you find yourself on the threshold of waking, do not let your mind rush out to meet your problems. Do not let the tax collector in the door. Instead, remain still. Feel the luxury of the sheets against your skin. Feel the breath in your lungs. And then, deliberately, boldly, assume the feeling of being immensely wealthy. Do not think of wealth. Think from wealth. Feel the security, the ease, the tremendous freedom that comes with having all your needs met and exceeded. This is the true taking. You are giving 10%, perhaps even more, of your initial conscious energy to the I am wealthy state. You are claiming your inheritance before the world has a chance to tell you otherwise. You are saying to your consciousness, this is the reality I choose to honor. And because your consciousness is the only reality, it must take that first fruit, that seed of abundance, and grow it into a physical harvest. You see, the world is always demanding your attention. It is a beggar at the door, crying out for you to notice its lack. If you give the beggar your attention, you become the beggar. But if you give your first fruits to the king within, you become the king. You must become psychologically weak before you can ever be physically rich. You cannot wait for the money to appear in your hand before you feel wealthy. That is looking for the harvest before you have planted the seed. You must give the feeling first. That is the tithe in the deleted or hidden tradition of the mystics. It was understood that the first hour of the day is the holy of holies. It is the time when the veil between the conscious and the subconscious is thinnest. If you sow the seed of wealth in that hour, it takes root with a power that no midday struggle can match. You are set in the atmosphere for your entire day. If you start your day in the consciousness of I am wealthy, then every person you meet, every phone call you receive, and every event that unfolds will be filtered through that assumption. The world will have no choice but to act as a servant to your initial decree. Think of the first fruits as the foundation of a building. If the foundation is laid in the conviction of abundance, the entire structure will stand firm, no matter what storms may blow. But if you lay your foundation in the sand of I am struggling, then no amount of hard work or physical effort will keep the building from collapsing. You are trying to build wealth on a foundation of poverty, and it simply cannot be done. Why do you think the scriptures say that the tithe belongs to the Lord? Because your attention is the most sacred thing you possess. It is the creative currency of the universe. When you spend your attention on worry, you are wasting your substance in riotous living. Like the prodigal son, You are taking the divine energy of God and pouring it into a hole of nothingness. But when you tithe your attention to the state of your wish fulfilled, you are returning that energy to its source, and it returns to you multiplied. Do not be deceived by the simplicity of this. The world will tell you that you are being unrealistic. The world will tell you that you should be planning for the worst. But the world did not create you, and the world cannot sustain you. Only the I am within you has that power, and that power responds only to the first fruits of your conviction. When you walk into your office or your kitchen or your place of business, do so as one who has already tithed. You have already honored the Lord. You have already felt the thrill of abundance. You don't need to look for results because you know the law. You have planted the best of your mind, and the barns must be filled. You can look at the tax collector, the bill, the debt, the lack, and smile. You can say to yourself, I have already paid my tithe. I have already honored the only power that matters. This shadow has no reality. It is merely the fading echo of a tithe I no longer pay. This is the secret that the money changers in the temple didn't want you to know. They wanted you to think that God needed your coins. But God, your imagination, needs only your feeling. If you give him the feeling of wealth, he will give you the world. If you give him the feeling of success, he will give you the kingdoms of the earth. He is not a bargainer, he is a mirror. So, tomorrow morning I challenge you. Do not reach for your phone. Do not reach for your worries. Reach for the first fruits of your imagination. Dwell in the state of being rich until that state is more real to you than the room in which you sleep. Breathe it in. Clothe yourself in it. This is your divine right. This is the hidden path to prosperity that has been whispered by the wise throughout the ages. Honor the Lord with your wealth. Give him the first, the best, the most vivid of your imaginal acts. And then, my friends, stand back and watch. You will not have room enough to receive the blessings that will pour forth. Your vats will brim over with new wine, and you will finally understand that the only way to have more on the outside is to give more of your first fruits on the inside. The tax collector of the world may not, but he will find the house already occupied by a king. Your I am is that king, and when the king speaks the word of wealth, the entire universe must obey. This is the power of the first fruits. This is the truth that sets you free from the grind of labor and brings you into the effortless flow of divine abundance. Tithe your mind, and you will never have to worry about tithing your purse again, for the purse that is filled by the Spirit can never be emptied. The talents and the sin of stagnation, the law of mental circulation. Let us look at one of the most misunderstood parables in all of the Holy Scriptures, the parable of the talents. For centuries, the church has used this story to teach a moral lesson about being a good steward of physical money or worldly skills. But I tell you, the Bible is not interested in your banking habits. The talent spoken of is not a coin of silver or gold. It is the currency of your imagination. It is the creative power that has been entrusted to you by the Father, who is your own wonderful human imagination. The story tells of a master who, before going on a journey, calls his servants and entrusts them with his property. To one, he gives 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his ability. Now, the master in this story is your own consciousness. The journey he takes is the silence, where the manifestation process begins. The servants are your various mental states and faculties, and the talents are your desires, your ideas, and your capacity to assume a state. You see, a desire is a gift from God. It is not something you thought up out of thin air. It is a seed, a talent, given to you so that you might multiply it and bring it into physical fruitage. The first 2 servants in the parable took what was given to them, and they traded. With this is the esoteric secret. They invested their imagination. They didn't look at the talent as something to be guarded or feared. They saw it as a beginning. They took the dia of wealth or the dia of success, and they moved with it. They occupied the state. They lived as if the talent were already growing. And because they were in a state of having, the law of the mind responded by giving them more. But look at the third servant. He was afraid. He took his talent and he buried it in the earth. He said, I knew you were a hard man, so I was afraid and went and hid your talent in the ground. This, my friends, is the only true sin. The word sin means to miss the mark. To bury your talent is to miss the mark of your divine potential. When you have a desire for a better life, for a grander home, or for a flourishing business, and you say, I can't afford it, or I don't have the education, or the economy is too poor. You are burying your talent in the earth of your physical senses. You are letting the hard man, the cold, harsh facts of the world dictate your reality. By burying the desire, you are affirming a state of lack. You are telling the universe, I do not have, and the law, which is impersonal and absolute, must respond to your claim. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. This sounds cruel to the uninitiated, but it is simply a statement of psychological fact. Consciousness is the only reality. If your internal state is one of, I have not, then the world must reflect not having back to you. Even the little you do have will eventually wither away, because you are not feeding it with the life-giving assumption of abundance. To be rich, you must vest your imagination. You must trade with your assumptions. Every time you feel the thrill of a wish fulfilled, you are investing. Every time you walk through a store, and instead of saying, I can't afford that, you say within yourself, that is mine. I like the feel of it. You are multiplying your talents. You are circulating the assumption of wealth. You must never allow your mind to stagnate, a state of not yet. Stagnation is death. Circulation is life. Think of your imagination as a great financial market. Most people are saving their imagination for a rainy day. They are waiting for the external world to change before they allow themselves to feel rich. But the market of the mind doesn't work that way. You must spend your feeling now to buy the reality tomorrow. If you want $1,000, you must spend the feeling of having $1,000. You must circulate that idea in your mind until it feels natural, until it feels common, until it feels like a present tense fact. The third servant was cursed not by a vengeful God, but by his own refusal to use the power he was given. He chose the security of the hole in the ground over the expansion of the trade. He chose to believe in the reality of his fear rather than the reality of his talent. Are you doing the same? Are you burying your dreams because you are afraid of the hard man, of the external world? Are you waiting for proof before you allow yourself to assume the state? I tell you, the proof will never come as long as the talent is in the dirt. You must dig it up. You must take that desire, no matter how small or impossible it seems, and you must begin to trade with it tonight. How do you trade? You do it in the silence. You do it by entering the state of the wish fulfilled and feeling the reality of it. You move from I want to I am. I want is a confession of lack. It is burying the talent. I am is the investment. It is the multiplication. When you live in the state of I am wealthy, you are circulating a high-value currency in your subconscious mind. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between a physical dollar and a felt assumption, but it knows how to balance the books. If the internal ledger says wealthy, the external ledger must eventually show wealthy. It is an inescapable law. But if you stop the circulation, if you let a single thought of I can't, or it's not working sit in your mind, you are creating a blockage. You are stagnating the flow. This is why many of you manifest in spurts. You invest for a day, and then you bury the talent for a week. You must be constant. You must keep the assumption in circulation. Even when you are paying a bill, do not feel as though you are losing money. Feel that you are circulating wealth. Feel that as the money leaves your hand, 10 times that amount is rushing back to you to fill the vacuum. The sin of stagnation is the belief that things are fixed, that the world is solid, and that you are limited by what you see. But the man of imagination knows that everything is in a state of flux. He knows that he can melt any hard fact by the heat of his persistent assumption. He doesn't bury his talent in the dead earth of the past. He plants it in the living soil of the future made present. Remember, the secret having is a psychological state. It is a feeling. It is an inner knowing. You do not need a single penny in your pocket to occupy the state of having. And once you occupy that state, you have fulfilled the requirement of the law. You have become the one who has. And because you are the one who has, the universe is now under a divine obligation to give you more. Do not be the fearful servant. Do not let your desires die in the darkness of doubt. Take the talent that has been given to you, that burning desire for freedom, for opulence, for success, and start trading with it this very hour. Assume the feeling. Live the reality in your mind. Circulate the joy of accomplishment. As you do, you will find that the master, your own higher consciousness, returns to find his property doubled. You will hear the words, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. That joy is the physical manifestation of your dream. It is the overflow of the barns. It is the life of abundance that was always yours, waiting only for you to stop bearing it and start believing it. The upper room strategy rising above the level of the problem. When you read in the scriptures of the prophets, ascending the holy mountain, or the disciples gathering in the upper room to wait for the descent of the Spirit, you must realize that these are not descriptions of physical travel. The Bible is not interested in your geography. It is interested in your frequency. To go is to perform a psychological movement. It is the act of withdrawing your attention from the evidence of the senses, from the valley of your debts, your symptoms, and your limitations, and lifting your consciousness to a higher level of being. You see, most people try to solve their problems from the level of the problem. They stay down in the valley, staring at the high walls of their financial lack. They pray from that state. They beg from that state. They try to manifest wealth while their entire being is vibrating with the fear of poverty. But I tell you, you cannot manifest wealth while you are mentally dwelling in the state of lack. It is a mathematical impossibility. A state can only produce its own likeness. If you are in the valley of, I am broke, your prayers are nothing but a reinforcement of that state. You are merely shouting at the walls of your prison, and the walls only echo back your own desperation. To change your life, you must leave the valley. You must enter the upper room. This is the secret of the controlled waking dream. It is the ability to shut the door on the world of facts and ascend to a state of consciousness where the problem simply does not exist. In the upper room, you do not ask for money. In the upper room, you occupy the state of one who already possesses it. You rise to the level where the debt is already paid, where the business is already successful, and where the freedom you seek is a present tense reality. Think of your consciousness as a great skyscraper. The ground floor is the world of your current physical facts. It is where you see the bills in the mailbox and the lack in the bank account. If you stay on the ground floor, you are a victim of those facts. But there is an elevator within you, and its name is imagination. You can choose at any moment to press the button for the upper room, the penthouse of your soul. When you arrive there, you do not look down at the ground floor and worry about what is happening there. You look out at the horizon. You see the world from a position of authority and abundance. You stay in that room until it feels more real to you than the street below. You dwell there until the atmosphere of wealth becomes your natural home. This is what the disciples were doing. They went up into the upper room where they were staying. They didn't just visit it. They inhabited it. They made it their psychological residence. When you are in the upper room, prayer is no longer a plea to a distant God. It becomes an act of divine assumption. You are not saying, please, Lord, give me money. You are saying, thank you, Father, that I am already wealthy. You feel the relief. You feel the satisfaction. You feel the I am within you expanding to fill the state of abundance. You stay there until you are so saturated with the feeling of the wish fulfilled that when you finally descend and open your eyes to the physical world, the facts no longer have the power to disturb you. You know something they don't know. You have seen the truth from the upper room, and you know that the shadows in the valley must eventually change to match the light you found above. The world will try to pull you back down. The world will knock on your door and scream about the realities of life. It will tell you that you are being delusional. But you must be like the disciples. You must keep the door of the upper room shut. You must protect your high vibrational state. Do not discuss your dreams with those who are still dwelling in the valley. Do not look at your bank balance while you are trying to stay in the penthouse. You must be single-minded. You must stay up until the higher frequency becomes your permanent state of being. Remember, the Holy Spirit only descends when you are one accord in the upper room. This means that your thoughts and your feelings must be in total agreement. You cannot think, I am rich, while feeling, I am poor. That is discord. To be in one accord is to let the feeling of wealth swallow up every doubt. It is to be so consumed by the reality of your imagination that you lose all awareness of your physical limitations. In that moment of total agreement, the fire falls. The subconscious mind accepts the new blueprint. The miracle is set in motion. You may walk back down into the valley of your daily life, but you walk as a different person. You walk as one who has been to the mountain. You walk with a sense of, it is done. So, tonight, I invite you to leave the valley. Stop fighting with your problems on the ground floor. Rise up, enter the upper room of your imagination. Clothe yourself in the feeling of your grandest desire. Stay there in the silence, in the stillness, until the upstairs feels like home and the downstairs feels like a dream. For in the kingdom of the mind, the higher always commands the lower. If you stay in the upper room, the valley must, by divine decree, be exalted to meet you. The law of the sower protecting the divine seed of abundance. We must now examine a mystery that has been hidden in plain sight within the parables of the Master. The world looks at the story of the sower and sees a lesson in agriculture or a moral warning about religious devotion. But I tell you, this is the most practical manual for wealth ever written. It is a psychological explanation of why some men manifest riches with a mere thought, while others struggle for a lifetime with nothing to show for it. The sower is you. The seed is the word. And what is the word? The word is not a sound in the air. It is a specific command, a focused assumption, a feeling of being that which you desire to be. And the soul, the most powerful and mysterious element in this drama, is your own subconscious mind. You must understand the nature of the soil. The subconscious mind is totally impersonal. It is the womb of creation. It has no opinion. It does not judge the seed you give it. It does not say, oh, this person doesn't deserve wealth, or this person is being unrealistic. Like the earth beneath your feet, it simply accepts whatever is dropped into it and begins the miraculous process of bringing it to life. If you plant the seed of I am wealthy, the soil begins to work. If you plant the seed of I am struggling, the soil works just as hard to bring that struggle into your physical world. The tragedy of the average man is not that he doesn't plant seeds of wealth. Almost everyone has moments of inspiration. You sit in a lecture, you read a book, or you spend 5 minutes in the morning visualizing a life of luxury. In that moment, you are the sower. You have dropped the seed into the fertile soil of your subconscious. But then you walk out of your door and you begin the process of digging it up. How do you dig up the seed? You do it through your mental diet. You plant the seed of wealth at 80 a.m., but by 90 a.m., you are complaining about the price of gas. By noon, you are discussing the terrible economy with a coworker. By evening, you are looking at your bills and feeling a pit of anxiety in your stomach. What have you done? You have reached into the soil and ripped out the seed of wealth, replacing it with the weeds of lack. You are a sower who constantly sabotages his own harvest. The Bible tells us that the birds came and devoured some of the seeds. Who are these birds? They are the opinions of the world. They are the voices of your friends, your family, and the media telling you that what you want is impossible. If you plant a seed and then immediately go and ask, practical person, if they think you can be rich, you have invited the birds to feast on your future. You must protect the seed. You must keep the word. Your assumption in a state of holy secrecy until it has taken such deep root in your subconscious that nothing can shake it. You see, the subconscious mind requires time for gestation. Every seed has its own appointed hour. If you plant an oak tree, you do not expect to see a forest tomorrow morning. You leave it alone. You trust the soil. But in the world of manifestation, we are often too impatient. We check the soil of our bank accounts every 5 minutes, and when we don't see the sprout of wealth, we declare that the law doesn't work. We become the stony ground where the seed has no depth. To be truly rich, you must become a good soul person. This means you must cultivate a mind that is receptive to the idea of abundance and, more importantly, a mind that is disciplined enough to leave the seed alone. When you assume the feeling of wealth, you must commit to that feeling. You must guard it as a mother guards an unborn child. You do not let the weeds of contradictory thoughts grow around it. If a thought of lack enters your mind, you do not fight it. You simply replace it with the seed. You say to yourself, I have already planted. The word has been spoken. My subconscious knows the way and the harvest is certain. Consider the power of a single assumption. If you could hold the feeling of being wealthy for just 1 hour without a single thought of doubt, you would change your life forever. But we are so habituated to the weeds, a struggle that we feel uncomfortable in the presence of abundance. We feel like imposters when we imagine ourselves rich. This imposter syndrome is the thorns that choke the seed. You must realize that you are not an imposter. You are a creator. The wealth you imagine is more real than the lack you see, because the lack is only the ghost of your past seeds. Most people wonder why the rich get richer. It is not because they are lucky or because they are working harder. It is because their soil is naturally filled with the assumption of wealth. They don't have to fight the weeds of how will I pay the rent? So every seed they plant grows effortlessly. You must simulate that state. You must treat your subconscious as a sacred garden where only the highest, the best, and the most opulent thoughts are allowed to grow. When you speak the word, the I am, you are issuing a command to the elements of your reality. You are the sower who knows that the harvest is a mathematical certainty. The deleted truth of the Bible is that you are the one who determines the yield. Some seeds will bring forth 30, fold some 60, and some 100. The difference is in the intensity of your feeling and the constancy of your assumption. If you want the 100-fold harvest, you must give yourself entirely to the state of wealth. You must walk as the wealthy walk, breathe as the wealthy breathe, and think as the wealthy think. You must become saturated with the feeling of abundance. You must not let the sun of the world's problems scorch your seed. You stay in the shade of your own wonderful imagination, nurturing the seed with the water of thank you. Gratitude is the greatest fertilizer in the world. When you say thank you, Father, for the wealth that hasn't yet appeared to the senses, you are telling the soul that the seed has already become a tree. The world is full of people who are sowing in tears. They are trying to manifest through effort, through struggle, and through pleading. But the Bible says, those who sow in tears shall reap with shouts of joy. This means you must move from the tears of wanting to the joy of having. You must rejoice in the imagination. You must feel the thrill of the harvest while the seed is still under the ground. If you can do this, if you can protect your first fruits and keep your talents in circulation, and if you can guard the soil of your mind from the birds and the thorns, then you have mastered the secret of the ages. You will no longer look at the world to tell you what is possible. You will look at your seed, and you will know that the word can never return void. It must accomplish that which you have sent it to do. Do not be discouraged by the wait. The time between the planting and the reaping is the bridge of incidents. It is the time when the subconscious is arranging the people, the events, and the circumstances to bring your wealth to you. Your only job is to remain a good sower. Keep the birds away. Pull the weeds of I can't and it's too hard. Stay in the feeling of the finished result. For I tell you, there is no power in the universe that can stop a seed from growing once it has been accepted by the soil. Your subconscious is the servant of your assumption. Give it the word of wealth, and it will give you a life of such abundance that you will truly know what it means for your barns to be filled to overflowing. You are the sower. The word is in your mouth. The soil is in your heart. Plant now and protect your harvest with the silence of conviction. Besides still waters, the power of non-resistance, and the secret of faith, we have been conditioned by a world of friction. We have been told from the time we could crawl that life is a struggle, that the race is to the swift, and that if we want to achieve great wealth, we must exert great effort. We have been sold a gospel of hustle, a philosophy of grinding, and a belief that the sweat of our brow is the only currency the universe accepts. But I tell you, this is the great deception. This struggle is not the path to power. It is the evidence of its absence. Wealth cannot flow into a mind that is turbulent with anxiety, for anxiety is the ultimate confession of lack. When the psalmist wrote, "He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul," he was revealing a mechanical law of the mind. The still waters are not a location in the physical world. They represent a state of consciousness. They represent the state akin to sleep, or what I call satisas. It is a state of profound non-resistance. It is the moment when the physical body is immobilized, when the analytical mind is quieted, and when the soul is free to commune with its own creative depths. To be rich, you must stop fighting for money. You must realize that effort is the enemy of manifestation. Think of it this way: if you are trying to be rich, you are implicitly affirming that you are not rich. The harder you try, the more you highlight the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And since your subconscious mind only accepts what you feel to be true, your effort serves only to anchor you more firmly in the state of poverty. You are pushing against a door that opens towards you. The more you push, the tighter it stays shut. Neville's greatest discovery was that God, the human imagination, works best when the physical self is at rest. When the senses are still, the I am can speak. In the state of sight, you are no longer a person in a world of limited resources. You are the infinite creator, and you are simply tasting the reality of your wish fulfilled. You lead your soul beside the still waters of your own imagination, and there you allow the feeling of wealth to wash over you. You do not argue with the world. You do not plead with the shadows. You simply accept that the wealth is already yours. How do we enter these still waters? It is a practical technique. You lay yourself down upon your bed, or you sit in a comfortable chair, and you induce a state of drowsy, sleepy meditation. You relax your body until you can no longer feel your limbs. You become a living soul rather than a physical object. And in that stillness, you perform a simple, short imaginal act. If it is wealth you desire, do not imagine a pile of gold or a long list of numbers. Imagine an act that implies you are already wealthy. Perhaps you see the hand of a friend shaking yours as they congratulate you on your great fortune. Perhaps you hear the voice of your banker telling you that your balance has reached a level you never thought possible. You repeat this short scene, this loop, over and over again until it takes on the tones of reality. You do not try to make it happen. You feel it happening now. The key is the stillness. When the mind is still, there is no resistance. There are no birds to eat the seed. There are no thorns of doubt to choke the word. You are in a state of total receptivity. You are restoring your soul by returning it to its original state of abundance. In this state, the word of wealth is not a wish. It is a command. It is a decree from the king in the quiet of his chambers. Most of you are hustling because you are afraid. You are afraid that if you stop for a moment, you will lose everything. But I tell you, the world is a shadow. It cannot move unless you move internally. When you are still, you are allowing the shadows to settle into a new pattern. You are giving the universe room to work. If you are constantly doing, you are interfering with the bridge of incidents. You are trying to do the work of the subconscious with the clumsy hands of the conscious mind. The Bible says, be still and know that I am God. It does not say work hard and know that I am God. The knowing comes in the stillness. When you are beside the still waters, you know that you are wealthy. You don't hope for it. You don't dream of it. You know it as a present tense fact. And that knowing is the only thing that has the power to manifest. Consider the lily of the field. It does not toil. It does not spin. It does not hustle to grow. It simply remains in its state of being. And the universe provides it with a glory greater than Solomon's. You are far more precious than the lily. Why then do you think you must struggle for your bread? It is only because you have forgotten the power of the still waters. You have forgotten that your Father knows what you need before you ask him, and his knowing is your imagination. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, do not take the turbulence of the day with you. Leave the valley of your concerns at the foot of the stairs. Lead your soul beside the still waters of sights. Assume the feeling of being the person you want to be. Feel the relief of being rich. Feel the security of being provided for. Do not look for the how or the when. Those are the questions of the turbulent mind. In the still mind, there is only the IS. The wealth you seek is not something you get. It is something you occupy. It is a state of consciousness that is always available, waiting for you to be still enough to enter it. When you rest in the finished result, you are telling the universe that the work is already done. And the universe, like a faithful servant, will hasten to bring the physical evidence to your door. Stop the fight. Drop the oars. Let the current of your own divine imagination carry you to the shores of your desire. The still waters are waiting. Your soul is ready to be restored.